she said!
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Ron and I were just lamenting on how hard it was to get out of bed this morning. Yeah. Some days it's harder than others. Yeah. But I think of all 8 of you that show up to listen to this.
It's so worth it.
It's totally worth it. It's so much fun. This is going to be another great episode today, you guys. I'm feeling like good things are happening. Like, especially with this Minnesota stuff, which is now spilt over into Ohio and Maine and New York and Washington State. And it's getting into other places. It's causing us to really look and go, like, there's a tax protest that's being pushed by Congress people. Right? Like, hey, why are we paying our taxes if the money's just going to this daycare? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't seem very fair, does it?
Speaking of daycares and the stories we were covering yesterday in Minnesota, I just saw a text or a post on my phone this morning that said that Washington State has over 500 of these things as well.
Yeah, and the on-the-ground sleuths went and visited them, a bunch of them yesterday. Yeah. And they're worse. At least in Minnesota, they look like daycares. These are residential houses.
Oh, jeez.
Like going up and knocking on.
Didn't even try.
Is there a daycare here? No daycare here. No daycare here.
What are you even talking about?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Pony Boy, good morning. Glad you made it. All right, so let's recap. What are the good things happening?
It actually remember that working against her.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But
makes sense.
It just, some of the stories that she was telling me are starting to make a lot more sense.
They got a lot more flexibility. You can and can't write up. So a couple good things about the Trump economy. So we've got our year-end review by Fox News.
6.18% 30-year fixed mortgage. That's down. 3% shelter inflation. 2.7% overall inflation. Down a little bit, but the GDP number there, the last one, 4.3%, booming.
Yeah, you know, these numbers, I think it's sometimes the mortgage rate for
the mortgage rate feels high because we got real addicted to 3 and 4% 30-year mortgages, but it's down from the Biden years. Inflation clearly is down from the Biden years.
And what they signal with these pages that they show, but you're not, maybe you're missing it, is usually they show the bad numbers in red. This is all green. It's all green.
It's all green. These are all good numbers. Yep. 4.3% GDP, which is awesome. So that's really good. Sometimes you have to step back and you have to have that realization like, okay.
Or at least they're painting the picture that everything is green.
Yeah. Our fall reminds us, Trump administration notches major win. The UN adopts a $507 million in cuts and eliminates nearly 2,900 jobs. The United Nations just got a bit leaner. The General Assembly adopted a $3.5 million budget, which is still about $3.4 billion over what I would have for 2026, reflecting a 15% reduction in financial resources and a nearly 19% cut in staffing. 15% reduction in financial resources and a 19% cut in staffing. That's significant. Any organization is going to feel that. Yeah. 2,900 workers, that's not a small amount of workers.
No.
2,900 positions eliminated. So this is the...
it looks like they still got enough money for the donut party.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, the United States commends the Fifth Committee for embracing common sense reform and for adopting a leaner and better prioritized 2026 regular budget. Today, we deliver a $570 million saving in our assessment compared to last year, and we reduce the UN's bloated bureaucracy by nearly 2,600 posts.
These 2,600, 2,900, tomato, what's the difference? So that's good news to see the UN trim down a little bit. I mean, 15% this year, maybe 15% next year, 15% the year after that. And eventually in about a decade, we'll get it down to size, right? Yeah. The UN is one of those institutions that when you look on paper, post-World War II, and really post-World War I, when the League of Nations was created, It seems like such a good idea. Yes, let's go diplomatically talk about our problems. But the way it's played out, I don't know that the UN has prevented very many wars. It's probably stalled and extended quite a few wars and conflicts, like things that would escalate into a border war or a skirmish get dragged on for decades. Because what happens is both sides start getting fed. We'll give you some aid, we'll give you some guns, we'll give you some aid, and we'll give you some guns. And they end up kind of enabling both sides. That's my 20-year paying attention to the UN. I don't think the UN solves anything. It never picks a side. It just enables both sides to.
I don't think you're too far off.
Yeah. And I guess if nuclear deterrence is the objective, then we'll let just the little peasants just fight it out forever. But yeah, they never come up with any kind of like concrete peace plans or anything like that. I haven't seen any. I mean, every major conflict the United States has been in, whether or not we get UN approval, I mean, all the UN does is either rubber stamp it or, slap you on the wrist and say, bad boy shouldn't have done those drone bombings.
Peace doesn't seem like a very durable good.
No. No. On another front, one of the fears I had, and it's a legitimate fear, was with Trump coming into office, the pendulum on all forms of corruption was going to swing, right? Weaponization was going to swing. You're going to see what looks like a weaponized government now actually get prosecutions and results. Cross our fingers. We really hope, right? But at the same time, the tools they're using to do that, we're now in the age of AI. And so they've let AI attack the IRS, go in and look at the Department of Housing, HHS, and it's able to track the grants, track the applications, cross-reference applications with the Social Security database, cross-reference it with other social welfare programs, see if there's double names, double hits, citizenship verification. All these things are suddenly possible with AI, whereas before, through traditional underwriting on all these government grants, programs, home loans, et cetera, it was one person just making sure all the boxes were checked.
And what we know with Doge so far is that there's been fraud in every place they looked.
Every single place. So Bill Pulte, who's the federal housing director, he was on and was being asked about these indictments against Letitia James and, Lisa Cook, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, Adam Schiff, who hasn't been indicted yet. And it's all this mortgage fraud stuff. Well, how did they find out? Did they go target these people? Well, Pulte is being pretty honest about it. No, they used AI, and it's not just your celebrities and politicians, of the day. It's way more than that.
Very actively on it. I appreciate the question. If you look at my Twitter feed, if you look at my testimony, we have made mortgage fraud a huge priority since the beginning. I didn't know any of these people were committing mortgage fraud when I, came on the job. I mean, I had heard about, different public reports and stuff like that. But, the amount of referrals, I am shocked now that I'm in office with how much mortgage fraud has gone on. So we have taken, I saw today,
have you actually taken
on another network.
Legal action?
Hold on, let me finish. I heard on another network, they said, well, can't you use AI to do this? That's exactly what we did.
Okay.
We did months ago. We went and we partnered with Palantir at Fannie Mae. We held a massive press event and we said, look, everybody beware. We are looking for mortgage fraud. We brought in Palantir. We have made tremendous efforts globally across the population, across the data set of loans from Fannie Mae.
Yeah.
And it's startling to me that because you have one Fed governor, you try to make an excuse for it instead of saying this is wrong. And this is prosecuted every day of the week for other people.
How many refer?
It's my contention, having been in the mortgage industry, that nobody has a legal mortgage. It's my contention that fraud is baked into the system because Frank Dodd Act and a couple other financial acts made it to where the way the applications are written is what loan officers do is they lie on your behalf on the loan applications. They figure out how to finagle your income to the right parameters. They figure out the right programs. They figure out how to get that one thing taken off your credit report, or at least so the underwriter doesn't consider it. They figure out how to make that second home a rental. Like the amount of manipulation that goes into just your standard FHA mortgage can be shocking and surprising. And so to what level are they going to go into these things? Right. I mean, like a great example is you have to be on a job for 2 years. Well, depending on how you read the rules, it could be 2 years to the day. Like if you got hired January 5th and you got to work 2 years till January 6th before you can apply for a mortgage. Some places are like, well, as long as you have 2 years tax returns showing that job, we'll just check this box.
Well, that could be a year and a day.
Exactly. Oh, I got that job in December, and here you are applying for the loan 1 year and 2 months later, but you've got 2 years tax returns where you showed a W-2 from that job. Those are the kind of things like, you know, you can get deep into the underwriting and the rules and stuff like that. That's a little thing. But it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, obviously, when we're talking about illegal immigrants, one of the huge concerns is, are illegal immigrants buying houses? Turns out, yes, they were.
You know, during the Biden administration, there were over 12 million illegal aliens that came over the border, straining our housing supply and making the costs go up. And so we work with Secretary Noem at DHS, as you alluded to make sure that only American citizens are living in HUD-funded housing. We also took away FHA-backed mortgages from illegal aliens during the Biden administration. They turned a blind eye. But we're going to keep the law to make sure that these mortgages, which are backed by the taxpayer, go only to the American people. And lastly, we are mandating that every public housing authority give us a comprehensive account who's living in every unit in taxpayer HUD-funded housing.
Wow. Actually, Dave, was another impact of that wide open border.
HUD funds things like Section 8 housing, all kinds of assisted living centers. And then, of course, they underwrite all these FHA mortgages and stuff like that, which apparently under the Biden administration, they were just turning a blind eye and letting people that didn't qualify as U.S. citizens for these government-backed loans. If it's a government-backed loan, it's the idea of we the people are backing it.
Right.
So it's supposed to be we the people originate it. Right. So when you have a non-we the people originating it, but we the people ultimately have to pay, it doesn't really work out. How they were doing that, why they were doing that, if that was a policy thing or if they baked that into the way the loan products are available. What happens now, Ron? Somebody got their green card, they got their social security card 4 months after crossing the border illegally and falling into the arms of a border patrol agent saying, I feel afraid. Right? Next thing you know, they've got an FHA loan. What about their 2 years to qualify?
Right.
You know what I mean? What's going on here? I mean, what about their 2 years tax returns? Are they current 1041 filers? Right. All these questions start to go, I just don't believe that this has been run properly. When you look at the people who really run borders, so this is, her name is Amy Pope, and she is from, let me just get this, Amy Pope, she is the UN official engineering on mass migration, okay?
Wow.
So this is her talking about mass migration. Now, you and I as peasants, Ron, when we hear mass migrations, it's like, freaking new people into the neighborhood, you know what I mean? But from their big level UN perspective, they see this as full of opportunities.
Our number one goal is to really harness the benefits and the promise of migration. And it's my belief that when we work together,
benefits and the promise.
What are they?
Together with communities, when we work together with governments, we can start to build out ways to find opportunities for people who are on the move rather than just treating the issue as a problem to be solved.
It is a problem.
What are you talking about? It is a problem.
Why are they moving?
Yeah.
Let's go to that. Climate change. Can't do anything about it. But here's your green deals, your solar panels, and a free mortgage for the immigrant next door.
I don't think anybody on the entire continent of Africa is going to make a financial or any other decision based off of climate change.
No, it's purely based off of economic opportunity. Right?
Now, that's not easy work. There's a lot of work to be done. It requires engagement of our member states, but it also requires engagement of partners from different sectors of society. So, for example, I believe there's so much more work we can be doing with the private sector, recognizing that the private sector benefits when migration is well managed. It also means working with civil society. It means building an ecosystem where vulnerable people on the move can find opportunities, and the communities where they ultimately go can benefit from those migrants who ultimately land there.
How come these people sound like NPCs that just like know the right words to say? And
now this gets dangerous because one of the things we identify here, they say all the right words, right? But you've got to understand the underlying premise from which these highly educated, one centralized world planners are operating from. How do we benefit local communities? What are we doing in those local communities, right? How are we benefiting them? What are we going to change about the communities where we're dropping these people? Notice how in there she's not talking about assimilating these migrants to these superior cultures or these superior communities. Instead, it's about accommodation. This is what accommodation looks like. This is from the University of Minnesota, okay, Institute of Child Development. This is one of their professors there, Gail Ferguson, Culture and Family Life. This is the kind of slop that's coming out of our universities, which creates the feeders programs that make it up to these UN and United States Senate, staff members and these NGOs that are shuffling people around the world. This is what they think about you and I and our households.
We posit that there is a whiteness pandemic behind the racism pandemic, and that this begins in the family system where young children are socialized into the culture of whiteness within white families. Our first recommendation.
Do you remember how the state of Minnesota, as of 2026, is going to be having that Black Lives deal that we showed? And they talked about getting rid of the nuclear family. They consider the nuclear family a white phenomenon. And it's a pandemic, by the way. This is University of Minnesota. Next year, elementary schools are going to be hearing this. And you've got people at the UN that are like, yeah, we need to remigrate these people out of Somalia. Notice how Somalia is not taking refugees, right? Not taking immigrants. They're all coming here. And what are they doing? Oh, they're just going to disintegrate the nuclear family, whiteness, this pandemic.
First recommendation is to remember that the whiteness pandemic is a pandemic. If you were born and raised in the United States, especially in a white family, then you've been raised in the pandemic, and you can play a role in halting and reversing this pandemic. We have two specific recommendations to that end. The first is for white parents to invest time in their own racial identity development through joining an organization like Showing Up for Racial Justice or your local BLM chapter. We posit that.
How about a good activity like fishing with your dad?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. How about?
These guys aren't shy about what their intentions are. This is Keith Ellison, the current attorney general for the state of Minnesota, a Muslim, the guy who held the book, I Am Antifa, and then goes, what is Antifa, right? So this is him talking about not only Minnesota, but Ohio as well, and specifically how they, as politicians, are utilizing the Somali community.
The election is very important.
Yes, it is.
So can you tell us why the Somali communities are very important for the election?
Well, the Somali community is critical. In my own election, I wouldn't be in office without the help of the Somali community. Somali voters came out in very large numbers and were able to register people to vote. Very recently I think there was several thousand Somalis who were just naturalized as U.S. citizens. Yeah. Somalis can make a huge impact on this election. And I can tell you without a doubt, it's not just in Minnesota that Somalis make a big difference in the election. Also in Ohio, which is a battleground state. Somalis that are in Columbus, Ohio, and in Virginia all have a role, an opportunity to play a very big role in this election. And so I think many of us are counting on the Somali community to get involved, stay involved, but not just vote, help others vote. On my campaign, we have tremendous leaders. For example,
don't just vote, help others to vote. Hold on to that for just a second.
Ibu Isak, who is a great leader, very articulate, very smart young lady, who is out gathering in Somali voters and other voters to get them to the polls. Also, we have Miriam, who's on our campaign, and others as well. So we believe that the Somali community plays a critical role, not just in Minnesota, but in Ohio and in Virginia. And so call your relatives out there so we can get them to the polls.
Ohio, Virginia, Minnesota, the Somali community is really important, and they can help get other people out the vote.
And if you can't read, we'll fill the ballot out for you.
Yeah. Now, a couple years ago, Veritas did an undercover video in Minnesota, in Ilhan Omar's district. We're going to watch this, okay? Because it's pretty interesting.
Project Veritas has received an explosive piece of tape. The tape you're about to see shows a man buying a registration form for an absentee ballot from a voter, giving him, quote, pocket money, unquote, of $200 and expecting to collect his ballot when the voter receives it.
Scott Pressler's doing the Lord's work out there, getting registration for free with the Amish people, right? The Somalis will pay you $200 for your ballot.
ang palit para pwede ng paro para ang apat na sa short access sa paro para ito sa flexibility. Uso na ang hindi that's a seven something like so other than just tayo
In another tape, a ballot harvester admits to being paid $800.
That's illegal. Why? You don't get illegal.
Our investigation has exposed a pay-to-vote scheme in Minnesota. It looks like Congressman Ilhan Omar participated.
So she did it. She started this whole thing with the pay to vote.
Yeah.
So the people that work for Ilhan are actually counting the ballots, counting the vote.
And they become a manager in the prison too.
You don't have to be an absentee ballot. The ballot harvesters vote for you in the polling booth.
They walk with you to the booth, and then they vote. Oh, vote this guy. Vote this guy. Vote this guy. Vote even if you speak English.
Osam Dakin admits to paying Al-Shabaab, which is... I still have to pay. Al-Shabaab is demanding $1,000 from me. He has to pay him to get him to leave him alone. A terrorist group in Somalia. Sources say Ilhan Omar's biggest financier is behind her pay-for-vote scheme and is pulling strings to defund Israel.
The reason she's fighting for Palestine is because of income. So it's all about money and power. And they want her to defund Israel.
It's all about money and power. They want her to defund Israel. So, you know, the Somali community has got a pretty good little pay-per-vote scheme. $800. Former Utah senator. Anyways, I just went and saw him speak a couple weeks ago. So he was on Fox News talking about this, and he says the problem with the Somali community is it's not an illegal immigration problem. It's a legal migration problem.
There's two issues. The first is we're seeing, I think, just sadly, the tip of the iceberg of this fraud from these Somali strongholds in the United States. It's in Minnesota. You've talked about Maine. You've talked about Ohio. This is a scam that reaches far and wide. And I'm kind of tired of the talk. This is a broader legal immigration problem. We talk a lot about illegal immigration, but this is a legal immigration problem. So from my perspective, under 18 U.S.C. 1343, the wire fraud statute, there ought to be prosecutions immediately. Every visa that can be revoked should be revoked. Every deportation that should happen right away. And in some cases where necessary, denaturalization should happen. A strong signal should be sent to immigrant communities that if you're going to come here and fleece the American taxpayer, we're actually going to prioritize taxpayers over this toxic empathy that's dominated the Democrat Party. Secondly, you talked about some of the COVID fraud abuse. The Biden administration, Jason, pushed so much money out the door for causes and issues that were never related to COVID. I think you're going to see another wave of this fraud, and you have to have state AGs who are serious about it, and hopefully President Trump's U.S. attorneys, when those state AGs don't step up, do it as well. But I think Congress certainly plays a role, but I'm sort of done with the talking. This is about prosecutions now. This is about putting people in jail and taking billions of dollars, billions.
There's no policy fix for this. There's no policy fix for this. It's accountability, and based on what you find in all these trials, then go make the policy fixes. But any attempt at fixing policy now, before this thing has been unraveled and you see the depths to which it goes, right? I mean, if they need to make a specific law that says child daycares cannot make political contributions, then that needs to be the rule.
You don't even know what the words are for the policy until you understand the problem fully.
You know, for years, they wouldn't allow the church to get involved with politics. You had the Johnson Amendment. Pastors couldn't express any kind of political viewpoint over the pulpit, couldn't do any kind of organizing or anything like that. Well, that's been repealed. The church is a vibrant part of our political commentary, right? Maybe we should pass that law for NGOs. Maybe we should pass that laws for publicly traded businesses, that they're not allowed to have a political opinion, right? I mean, why is it that because of the 14th Amendment and that all persons born or naturalized, which by the way includes corporations because they're considered persons under the law, right? Why do I have to compete for free speech with Facebook? Why do I have to compete with free speech with Hilton Hotels, right? Or any of these large groups, or heaven forbid, an NGO that's trying to traffic kids across the border? Why do I have to compete with them for speech? They're a creature of the state. They exist at the pleasure of the state.
Right.
Why should it be allowed as an organization to have any type of political opinion at all?
Well, and they can fill their coffers way easier than you can.
With all this nice grant money that apparently just requires you to check one or two boxes. So the question was asked to Carolyn Levitt about specifically going after people who have actually naturalized. They've become U.S. citizens. They've been issued a Social Security card. They've taken the oath, but they're still participating in this kind of fraud. Is there any consideration in denaturalizing them, which is taking away their citizenship?
Does President Trump want those Somalis to have their citizenship revoked if convicted of fraud?
Absolutely. And it's something the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State is currently looking at right now. It's something this administration has already done. And we know that there are liberal activist judges across the country who will try to block and tackle this administration from pursuing justice at every turn. But that's not going to stop the president and his entire cabinet by acting on behalf of law-abiding, tax-paying citizens in the state of Minnesota and in states across the country who have been ripped off by people who abused our immigration system, came to our country, do not love our country or respect our values, and now have been ripping off and stealing money from law-abiding Americans. This administration is not going to tolerate it. And again, this is a whole of government effort. We've surged resources. As you pointed out, the Department of Justice has already charged and prosecuted nearly 100 people. In fact, some of the buildings and some of the sites that Nick Shirley exposed in that video are under current investigation by the Department of Justice. One of those sites, the Midway building, resulted in 13 defendants already being charged earlier this year under the leadership of our Attorney General and President Trump. So that is definitely going to continue.
They don't get a pass on that. All the indictments they had, this recent 90 Somalis that have been indicted, all under Biden. It all started under Biden. Imagine how bad it had to have been for the Joe Biden administration to go after these people.
To actually take a look.
These guys have absolutely been behind the ball. Thank goodness they had some indictment. And that actually kind of kicked this off, right? When the indictment was announced, it was like, oh, yeah, we got a problem up in Maine, too. And then Nick Shirley went out and did his thing, right? So the public awareness on this is recent. The government's been seeing this for years and years and years. You hear from the Minnesota state reps and stuff like that.
And they're just slow to act.
Yeah, well, and how do you act?
I don't know.
Right? Like when Keith Ellison, the AG who's in charge of this stuff, is like, well, yeah, I mean, give me a referral for a white daycare, but don't give me any of the Somali stuff because those guys, I need the $800 donations to buy votes. Like that's what you're going to find here. Here's an example in little Somalia, in Minnesota. Abdi Dasin is running for a seat.
Meet Abdi. He is running for Minnesota House District 14A. And I bet you'll never guess what type of business Abdi owns. Blooming Kids Childcare. And I did a little research on Blooming Kids, and they have quite the laundry list of violations as well, just like the other ones that we were looking at. And over the years, they've been violated for
So they've all got violations. These guys have all been visited. They've all been looked at. They've all got a laundry list of violations. But there are no laws. There
but the money keeps flowing.
There are no laws. There are only cops. If you rack up violations and you never get a ticket, when was this place actually used? I've never seen anyone before, especially kids going in or out. What's going on here? What is this actually used for? Google review.
Qualified to do the job. Same violations happen over and over and over. No immunization records for any of the children. Not enough staff. So I'm not able to see how much money that this particular daycare center is getting from the state or the federal government, because that needs to be done by somebody who has access to that information, which I don't. I did look up his campaign fund donations, and he's not getting any from any daycare center. So if somebody can tag Nick Shirley, let him know that he should probably look into this one too.
Oh, so we've got a guy running a daycare that's running for political office. So last night there was a rash of break-ins in these daycare centers in Minneapolis. Oh. And one of them here, the Minneapolis Daycare Center targeted by this tweet, Nokomis Daycare Center received a telephone threats of violence and was broken into last night and vandalized. The checkbooks and parents' documents were stolen. How convenient. How convenient that the very paper trail we would need to know where the money's going and who's enrolled there would just disappear. Of all the things to be taken in a midnight break-in, it's the two things that investigators would want to look at. So, hey, way, they're after us. Okay. Now it gets even more nefarious than this. So there's the infamous Leering Center, right? And after the Leering Center was exposed by Nick Shirley, that's become a focal point for people to gather in the parking lot and talk about Minnesota fraud. Well, this gentleman is listed as their owner, manager, or whatever. And he got out going, yeah, there's kids here. There's no fraud here. Get out of here, right? He was in the parking lot the next day telling people off. Turns out he might be a little more into this story than we think.
Am I going crazy, or is this the same guy? Is the manager of the infamous Learning Center in Minneapolis also one of the guys that was dancing in the back of Mayor Jacob Frey's election victory video, the one that went super viral where he thanks his constituents in Somali for re-electing him last month? Abraham Ali claims to be the manager of the Quality Learning Center and says that there is no fraud going on whatsoever there. He very well may just have a doppelganger who happens to look just like him that lives in the very same city he lives in. Or he could be one of the Somali community leaders who is working with local electeds to keep some of these fraud schemes going. But that would just be crazy, right? It could be totally He's got a very unique face and hairline.
Put out a certain message about a certain people.
I mean, he looks so similar to this guy going... I mean, hypothetically,
pretty crazy likeness.
It would make sense that someone running a fraudulent business would have a vested interest in who is in control politically in the city where they are running said fraudulent business. And Jacob Frey is no stranger to simping for Somalia. Hell, he even puts out campaign videos in Somali for
Maagaigawa Jacob Frey. Minneapolis.
And the cherry on top is that Governor Tim Walz, after being radio silent, finally comes out and puts out a statement days later, just a few minutes ago. And what does he do? He blames Trump. Trump keeps letting fraudsters out of prison. I'm curious, do you guys think this is the same guy? Because if I was the DOJ, I would be getting to know Abraham very well right now.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Now, CNN, they're big mad at this. They're big mad. They just cannot believe that anybody would be poking around the Somali community. What a bunch of racists. So they had on this feature, they made it out to the Leering Center to get in there. And the Leering Center was shut down. And then after they were shut down, they started bringing kids in. It's kind of fun. So this is CNN's take on all this.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say it's a left or right issue. No, fraud is fraud. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video, released over the weekend, in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds. Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody to be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a daycare.
Be a reception.
No, every daycare is locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point. Then why can't they give me information?
That's not a fair point.
Child?
Federal law enforcement has been investigating fraud in Minnesota for several years. Both Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel said on social media they've indicted dozens of defendants. DHS has posted multiple videos of agents they say are conducting a massive fraud investigation. Do you think that federal law enforcement hasn't done enough? I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments and cases have been going on.
Who is she?
CNN.
Okay, so I got 1 point. 1 point here is probably all we need. The amount of interest and discussion happening around this Nick Shirley kid who's just looking into this, why can't they use that same amount of energy to actually look into the problem?
Well, that's not their business. They're just businesses to disprove the peasants. The peasants always are wrong.
Right.
Don't believe you're lying.
And that's my point.
Don't believe you're lying.
Right.
Go to all these daycares, no children. They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you what's happening. and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Have you seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
Minnesota Republicans say despite the new focus from the Trump administration, they have been sounding the alarm on fraud for years.
We have talked about fraud. We have gotten stories. We've tried to push this forward every way that we can.
At the daycare where Shirley showed back up, a stream of children walk inside.
You're saying that this is a fraudulent daycare. There's kids being dropped off right now.
For the first time in months. Did you know
They're
that?
showing face right now.
A viral video, disputed claims, and their full fallout.
Disputed claims.
Whitney, you mentioned in your story that there were dozens of convictions going back to 2022. Can you explain what those convictions established?
Well, this was really the beginning of this massive fraud case that has now led to more than 50 convictions, 56 people at least convicted as of September of this year, Jim. At least 78 people have been indicted in that case. It was this sprawling investigation that, DOJ has really touted as their effort to try to root out what is a fraud problem here in Minnesota, Jim.
And then the problem with this case where there are 78 indictments, it's one business. It was one crime that had 78 players involved. So when they act like, well, they've already had 80 indictments, that's not 80 separate child centers or fraud schemes. That's one scheme that had 80 people involved. Right. So, most of those people are going to get small little sentences. I knew a guy in prison that was in there for insurance fraud. Right. And he participated in some COVID scheme. Okay. And he took a plea deal and got 24 months, and he was going to be done with his time served. The number is, it's like 50 of them are low level Ponzi's in the thing. They're the guys that are just go along to get along. I got hired to do a job and I just fill out applications. They're like, oh yeah, no, just commit perjury here. Check that box and sign it, and the check will cash. You know what I mean? Now, this is continuing to go on. News Nation did a little look into this. They expanded from child care centers to adult home centers, assisted living sites.
This may look like your typical single family home, but it bills itself as an assisted living facility, and it receives a lot of taxpayer money. Here in Minnesota, the number of people getting help in assisted living facilities is up, double the growth of other programs. But here's the kicker. The rate of payment in this assisted living space is 10 to 15 times the growth in other programs. So we pulled the data on assisted living facilities in the Minneapolis area. Minneapolis, as you might expect, has a lot, 169. St. Paul, with a population of 307,000, has 83. But Brooklyn Center, 30,000 population, has 106. And Brooklyn Park, population of 84,000, has 181, more than Minneapolis, a city 5 times its size. But this assisted living facility puts this all in perspective. It's owned by a man indicted for laundering $1 million in the Feeding Our Future scam. He's Gandhi Mohammed, now Gandhi Abdi Kadai, and his LLC owns the homes. His wife runs the assisted living facilities, and the state is continuing to pay as he awaits his trial. We went to each of them.
We're curious because the man who owns this building was indicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal. Did you know that?
No.
Don't know that?
You do what?
Do you know the Feeding Our Future scandal? The scam that was, there's all these indictments related to false, billing on feeding shows.
No, that's not true.
That it's not true?
It's not true. The way I know that, no.
These assisted living facilities received over $2.3 million in state money last year alone. A Minnesota Reformer article says he has been paid a whopping $49 million since 2016.
How is it possible that this person who's been indicted in Feeding Our Future also is still collecting checks from the state, running these assisted living centers with his wife?
I honestly have no idea. It seems like the most basic due diligence would have been to run a check of all the people indicted in Feeding Our Future
and then make sure they're not getting paid from other state programs. And at least in this case, and I've heard perhaps in others, they didn't do that.
State Representative Kristen Robbins is the chair of the House Fraud and Oversight Committee here.
So this person owns assisted living facilities, and his wife runs the service provider part of it. So he owns the property. One of the properties was purchased with the same shell company he used to money launder in Feeding Our Future. And now that same shell company has been used to buy a new assisted living facility property. It's unconscionable that they haven't done the most basic due diligence to cross-check that Feeding Our Future defendants aren't getting additional state money.
It is crazy. But hey, listen, we've had enough of this vigilante justice. Enough of these knocking on doors and verifying if businesses are real.
So he goes to the facilities. Some of them had already been closed for some time.
I licensed to go around and say I couldn't get in the daycare centers. The doors were locked. Like, nobody should be able to walk into a daycare center because the doors.
Notice Tiffany Cross, podcast host, native land. What do you want to bet she said the phrase "this is stolen land" before?
These random vigilante justice, something that people in this country know a lot about. These random vigilante justice seekers.
Trust me, for the number of guns that are floating around this country, you've never seen vigilante justice.
Yeah. Who ordain themselves like some sort of law enforcement expert. Like, he's a random YouTuber. And I just find it laughable that the party of the self-proclaimed pro-life people are celebrating cutting off funding to children.
There's no kids.
This is the stupidest take. This is the stupidest take ever.
Dude, the vigilante justice. It's got to end. This topic, it goes and goes and goes, right? It gets bigger than that. Let's keep going here.
I'm saying, why are the networks not covering the story? Is this really just Republican or Democrat thing? Why? And then when Vinny showed that little receipt that he's got, and Vinny, that is a campaign donation receipt in the state of Washington that was dollars that came from Minnesota, right?
Yep.
Pat, what we are seeing in Minnesota is the biggest campaign finance scam in history. They are laundering money through public assistance programs into the Somali community. The Somali community sends it to Somali. Al-Shabaab gets some of it, and then some of it comes back to Tim Walz's campaign. They've got him by the throat. If he speaks about this, they're going to show that money came back offshore from the campaign to it. I am convinced of this. This is my opinion. This is my deduction. This is what I believe. So I believe that they have checkmated it. And now we're seeing dollars from Minnesota going to Somali candidates in Washington. And why don't the networks talk about it? Who collects all the campaign donations? Campaigns. Remember when they say that if you give $1 billion in relief fund to middle class
fraud network. This is a fraud network.
It's a fraud network. Okay. And it goes far and wide. New York. Bill de Blasio's wife, where has the $850 million gone? Bill de Blasio's wife can't account for staggering amount of taxpayer money that the New York mayor gave her for a mental health project, right? How much of that money made it back into campaigns? You've got this situation with the Somalis that's extended all the way to Maine.
This is going to have implications for the state of Maine in the billions with a B of dollars.
Fraud involving Daycare. This comes after the Maine Department of Health and Human Services last week temporarily suspended all payments to Gateway Community Services. The organization provides services to immigrants and refugees. Today in Augusta, Republicans called on Democrats and state agencies to cooperate with a U.S. House Oversight Committee investigation into the matter and other fraud cases. A Democrat from South Portland, Representative Decca DeLocke, is the former assistant executive director of Gateway and currently sits on the Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee. Republicans say they will ask for the removal of DeLocke from that committee.
Yeah, because she's been sitting on top of something that's been doling out billions of dollars in fraud. We can trust her to take care of it. Washington State. What if I told you, this is from Miss Jinx, what if I told you a Somali-owned daycare is in a 950 square foot house, has a license capacity of 6, and was paid $47,000 in November 2025, 1 month ago? Okay. What if I told you they've been paid $192,000 in the last 5 months? That's $6,420 per month per child at max capacity over 5 months. And where's this daycare at? SeaTac, Muhammad Ahmed Mahmoud, Dear Child Care. right? And here it is right here, all the information.
Huh.
It's all out there, right? I mean, this is all public record. These guys have just done it right under our noses, right? This was, now Washington's in on it. So this is the first video of someone who went and checked out one of these daycares in Washington. Ron, this is where our tax dollars go.
So we're at the site of one. This is what I was told I was going to see a bunch of these.
There you go. Look
Bilingual,
at coming soon, child care.
schools.
Bilingual, boarded up, piece of crap building.
This is the first one I've seen. So I had to pull over and actually take a shot of it.
Are there any kids there? Do you think there's any kids there?
Don't know.
Don't worry. On the paperwork side of things, they're up and running.
Probably at capacity.
This is Washington State. This is what we're seeing. Okay. So you're seeing abandoned commercial buildings. You're seeing stuff like this. Okay. This is on this right here, 20 daycares in a 3-block area of subsidized housing.
Oh, jeez.
So as you can see, no one here is answering. It's just past 10 a.m. right now. Hello, looking to get some information about childcare. Okay, so as you can see, I just asked about childcare. Is this childcare for children? It's not. Yeah, I just want to make sure this is Tawakkul House. Yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure. What's the email address? Noreen Childcare here at 2918. Okay, how come I can't?
Neighbors know that these guys are bringing in high 6 figures in this neighborhood. There's a high 6 figures funneling through this house right here.
Receive childcare here. Okay, face covering required. I saw this location on the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. I just saw you go in a moment ago, ma'am. Are you unfamiliar with this address right here, 2918, is listed? I don't know. The kid started to answer honestly, and his dad then became a bit panicked and rushed him inside. Hello? I saw you move the blinds. I'm just looking for some information about childcare.
Why doesn't anybody want to talk?
It goes on and on like this. This is Washington. This is us, Ron. This is our tax dollars. Okay, here's another one. Nice house. Nice neighborhood.
Oh yeah, I was trying to find the local daycares. Okay, I was trying to find out if you guys are a daycare. I was just trying to see.
No, but you'd need to run a daycare to afford a house like that.
Yeah, nice.
No, there's nobody online to ask, so I'm just trying to ask you guys.
No, you don't have to ask anything.
I don't have to?
Do you have any questions?
I do. I have a question. I was just asking you guys. Okay, you guys are listed on the website and a bunch of web. Oh, I can, yeah.
No kids, get out of here. Go online. Can't go online. I'm here to, you know what I mean? Are these real? Are these real daycares?
You're at Halauli Safia Child Care Center in Kent, Washington.
Wow, Ron, I think we're in the wrong business. We should build a subdivision with child care centers.
I think I could have a child care center in my house.
Don't need kids.
Right.
Right? I mean, you can just have a single family residence on a corner lot, no signage or anything. It's as long as you're on Google Maps and you have your application filled out.
You're going to have palm trees.
$800,000 a year.
Received $863,000 since 2023. I don't see any signs right off the bat that it's a child care facility. There's no car seats. There's no children's toys, nothing like that. So we're going to go in and we're going to check it out. Hi, is this Halauli Childcare? No, there's no childcare here. Okay, God, thank you so much. There's no childcare. All right, guys, we're just at Halauli, what's allegedly Halauli Child Care Center in Kent, Washington, which is right behind me right here. We went up to the door, the exact address listed on the state website, receiving over $800,000 since 2023. They claim there's no child care here.
Couple $100,000 in bars.
I went and tried to ask neighbors if there was daycare there. Nobody answered, but I could see the people who lived in that house peeling the curtains back because just like all of the other places, all the curtains were drawn. You couldn't see in or anything. They were peeling the curtains back and watching me as I walk around to the neighbors' houses, and they're scrambling and yelling, and I can hear them. What's up with that? Pretty weird.
So I'm out of
Are we disturbed enough yet? Are we sick enough yet? Okay, so here's Washington State. Look, all these right at school. Auburn, Renton, Sumner, Bremerton, Federal Way. So this is somebody figured out how to game the system, and they're just buying single-family residences. Tacoma, Puyallup, Des Moines, Seattle. All child care centers. Right? Some of these are right next to schools. Some are home addresses. All have the same name and listing photo. Could be nothing.
This scam is awesome at scale.
Look at how this is a real estate investor.
Jeez.
Right? Oh my goodness. So this gentleman here, he did some more digging, Mike Urban, and he was looking at Massachusetts. It turns out he found something kind of interesting. There's a pattern to all of this.
So a lot has happened in the course of the last couple of hours. I think the majority of the fraud is happening in clusters within the same either family members or groups of people or whatever it may be. And it's all happening at it's not very deep, but it's very wide, if that makes sense. So I think that what's happening is it's happening in clusters. And these are clusters of let's say, condos or multifamily homes or whatever it is. And what is happening, and I'm going to find it, by the way. And what's happening is they're all using these single apartments, single condos, or potentially even a single family home if it's really outside of Boston. They're using those as the daycares. That's what's happening. Okay. And their capacity is not the same as it is in Minnesota. That's just the fact. So I think it's happening at scale with a smaller capacity. But so there's probably more people committing fraud at a smaller scale, if that makes sense. So like you're not going to have one building that is committing $5 million in fraud, but you might have 50 buildings that are committing $1 million in fraud. That is going to be the difference between Massachusetts and a place like Minneapolis, because again, the barrier to entry to open a daycare is very, very low, which provides the barrier to entry for fraud to be very, very, very high. And it's very unfortunate because who gets stuck with the bill? We do. What these businesses are doing is that they're charging the state basically to subsidize the payments for these kids that are not even showing up there. The parents are saying that the kids are showing up there, and then both the daycare and the parent allegedly are splitting the money. This is happening.
Oh,
yeah. Now, when we're talking daycares, child care centers, assisted living, and we know that a huge part of what happens at the border is child trafficking. It shouldn't be any surprise when we see stuff like this. Feds, Somali gang ran sex rings in 3 states. 29 people have been indicted in a sex trafficking ring spanning 3 states and allegedly run by Minneapolis-based Somali gangs. See,
shocker.
There's still 300,000 kids missing. What are the odds that some of those kids' names ended up on some of these rolls so that they're accounted for and paid for, by the way? What are the odds? This is where we start to go, and our brains melt. Because how can we tolerate this in our society? Oh, we don't want to target the Somalis. This is happening in clusters. Show me a Ukrainian front, a Russian front, a Guatemalan front. Heck, show me a white group doing it. I'll be all for it, against it too. Fraud is fraud.
Show me the mob doing this.
This is what's been, for many people who get called libertarians. And, oh, no, you don't understand. I can't contribute to this. There's a reason why I turned down a commission to be an officer in the United States military. I couldn't contribute to it. I couldn't give my energy to that. There's a reason why I walked away from mortgages. There's a reason why I walked away from insurance. There's a reason why I walked away from so many of these things, is because when you get in and you see the little short man behind the curtain and you realize it's just a pimpled freak that has bad internet habits, you know what I mean? And that guy's in charge of your life. It was intolerable for me. Gary Cardone says this, and this is, by the way, MTG's fiance. Are U.S. citizens required to participate in murder? Core thesis. My taxes have been and are being used to kill, murder, and oppress and maim millions, not build schools, hospitals, dams, and bridges as originally intended. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. And once seen, at least for me, I can no longer pretend to not be actively complicit in past and future murder. If I do nothing about it, if I say nothing, and most certainly if I continue to contribute financial energy to support and sustain the murder, To continue paying 1 penny of taxes makes me overtly complicit to murder and enslavement on an unprecedented scale. How can I look my children in their eyes knowing daddy is a killer? Question for a jury, a judge, the Supreme Court. If a man witnesses a great crime, the murder, rape, and enslavement of innocents, when does he become responsible to report it and or stop it? If that man is also found later, after he has knowledge of the crimes, continues to send funds to those very murderous people, which he knows goes to support and feed the criminals and the crime, when and at what point does that man cross the line of aiding, abetting a crime and the criminals and thus responsible for the crime? As a citizen, I have a constitutional obligation. Do I have a constitutional obligation to be complicit with murder, to violate core principles of the 10 Commandments and core beliefs common to every religion on the planet? I shall be judged by God, by myself, by others, not by what I say or said, but what I do and do not. And Marjorie Taylor Greene retweets this with a nationwide tax strike in the coming year.
Okay.
Tough questions for us to ask. I'd love to pay into the social safety net. I think it's a great idea, except when it's abused. How is it possible when you drive around Kent, Washington, you see those nice houses with over $150,000 in cars in the driveway and no child care center, and they open the door and say, no child care here, but yet you can see the state has paid them $800,000 in the last 2 years. Does that person work? Do they contribute anything or just campaign contributions? How deep does this rabbit hole go? Right? We've talked about every single type of fraud, but this type of stuff, the social safety net fraud that happens in our neighborhoods, that they take advantage of our kids and their enrollment in schools and programs, this is everything. This is your local government. This is everything. Why does Kitsap County not have a new park since 1978?
Is that the year?
That's the year. That's the last time Kitsap County designated a park. How is that possible when the county has tripled in size? But where's all the money going? Do we have a bridge going over Gorse yet? Or do we still have a environmental traffic nightmare down there?
Yeah,
why don't we
still a
have?
nightmare.
Why do we have potholes in our roads? And our roads are better than others.
Well, we got the highest gas tax in the country, right?
But yet we've got Somali daycares in Bremerton. Yeah, highest gas tax in the country. I don't view this as super dour. I view this as excellent news because this is waking people up. This fraud, the Doge thing, isn't just USAID foreign fraud and NGOs. That makes federal representatives and senators really nervous. But when you get down to this kind of stuff, this is how you end up with the retarded school board people that have only lived in your district for 5 years and all of a sudden they're the school board president. You know what I mean? And they've got crazy ideas about gender and education, and textbooks. This is how you end up with an entire administrative cabinet that are elected, like in the state of Washington, that say things like the Constitution is baked in racism. And we need a reset in the state of Washington from the Constitution of the United States. This is how you end up with it. It's targeted little communities. We've got Afghans, Somalis here in Washington state. All these communities, they all act the same. Once they get in and someone shows them, fill this out, fill this out, fill this out, go buy that property. I mean, what are the odds that the illegal immigrants, and I'm assuming they're illegal or illegally naturalized, that are owning these little places in Kent, making $800,000, right? What do you want to bet that there's immigration fraud, there's employment fraud, obviously there's probably FHA loan fraud, like probably everything about that person's existence in our neighborhoods is fraudulent. Meanwhile, the neighbor has to wake up at 5 a.m., walk his poodle, right? Make breakfast for the kids, get them off to school. And
do a podcast.
Yeah, go do a podcast, go to his job, right? And the whole time trying to refuse government benefit as a matter of principle.
Right.
It's crazy. All right, guys, that's it for our public podcast today. A little quiet in the chats. Pray the Rosary says, I think the peasant's perspective should go on the road and investigate your local area. Well, we just don't want to get shot.
Yeah. So then read the next one.
Want to do a drill down on fraud. Yeah. Well, I mean, for the right sponsorship amount, maybe you can get us to drive around and look at some of that stuff, but it does probably paint a target on you.
You're going to have to do more than buy Taylor a coffee.
Yeah, which when we get over into the private, we're going to be hearing a little bit about lists that are being made to get retribution against Trump and his supporters. We're going to be hearing a little bit about how Donald Trump is kind of getting trapped into this Venezuela thing. And then we're going to talk about the J6 pipe bomb case. The J6 pipe bomb case took a really weird turn yesterday because Blaze TV or Blaze Media has CCTV footage of Brian Cole, the alleged pipe bomber, driving in his car at the alleged time that he was planting pipe bombs. So now we know for a fact he's not the person in the gray hoodie walking around because he's in his car at the time that the gray hoodie person's walking around. Dope. Bongino did his "I'm leaving the FBI" big tweet. He did not include the J6 pipe bomb arrest as part of his accomplishments. So we'll see.